right, let's start. So, hi everyone. Welcome to today's session of Introduction to Customer Service Insights with Carl Cookson. Just to let you know that this session will be recorded and will be made available on the D365 user group. Now, please ensure that your mics are muted unless you're asking a question. Cooks, how do you want to handle questions? Do you want it through the session or do you want it at the end?
Yeah, you can just interrupt me whenever you like, really. More interaction, better, if there is any.
Cool. So if there are any questions, feel free to raise your hand, pop it in the chat, and we can stop at any appropriate times to ask questions, so make it a bit more interactive. So Cooks, over to you.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you've had a good lunch. Welcome to an introduction to Customer Service Insights. Just to introduce myself, I'm Carl Cookson. I'm available on LinkedIn. I've also got a Twitter handle, and my blog is there. I work for Avanade UK, who are a global system integrator. We've recently just been awarded 8 Microsoft Global Awards of Most Valuable Partners. So we typically work with enterprise clients doing global system integration. So why do we need Dynamics Customer Insights? As customers are more conscious of the service that is provided and can make intelligent choices about who their service provider or which products they buy, service is paramount on those decisions. When things go wrong, it is vital that we provide a service that is typically the best in breed, and when it goes wrong, it should be better than when it's running smoothly. So we have those quick interactions, and the information that is available to customers when their product is problematic is efficient and quickly resolves their problems. And that's because the word of mouth is killing a lot of industries. They make sure that we're giving positive feedback and stopping that negative at all times. To every customer service manager, understanding the customer satisfaction score, the CSAT score, is critical. She needs to get ahead of anything that's bringing that score down, and anything that's going to have a negative impact on that score, as well as the closure, the resolution time, the closure time, and also allow training of individuals within her team to improve the satisfaction and time to close. And as every product is growing and the user base is growing, the pressures on our service desks are ever increasing. If we can make sure that we're improving that operational efficiency by reducing the call times and wait times on our service desk and the number of people that we need on our service desks, we can make sure that we can still expand, but keep the numbers in that service desk lower. And doing that by either doing virtual agents or FAQs to divulge information that is critical to your users to stop them calling in or raising a ticket. So what is Dynamics Customer Service Insights? It's an AI-driven application that sits on top of your customer service data and allows managers to get a clear, informative view of their team and their customers. We generate actionable insights into over your performance metrics, operational data, and seeing emerging trends sorry, excuse me, I just got the hiccups. Seeing emerging trends in this data will really drive you to take action either directly or indirectly. It links to Dynamics 365 Customer Service, and apparently we're meant to be getting Salesforce quite soon. And then it calculates and displays key metrics about groups of cases or topics. And that's how it generates that key data. Each topic is a grouping of cases or incidents, which are grouped together by this AI and natural language matching. By using this tool, a manager can get ahead of the game. They can work out where their staff have limitations or where they need training. they can publish virtual agents straight from the site to allow them to interact with their customers directly and stop that interaction with the customer help desk. And it's also finally it's also available within Customer Service Hub, so you can publish these reports within that central hub, so you can start looking at that data in a centralized place. But not only that, we can analyze calls too. We can upload calls which typically would come from your current help desk or service desk monitoring solution for your call handling, and Microsoft will use AI to transcribe that call, understand the sentiment, take out actionable actions in there, products, other keywords, and decide how that interaction with the customer was. And that is built up into your teams and in your individuals to give you a progress over time of your use or how people are interacting with your customers. And this is vital as well for when you want to go and dig into that negative call that happened, or an insight into the way people are using the tools that are available to them and using the right bits of information to pass that on to their customers. And finally, around GDPR, we can get rid of that data, so we can set up a configuration to automatically delete that data once Microsoft has done its AI over it. So this is all about building a positive cycle. This is about understanding your customers and driving, monitoring their calls, analysing that information and reacting to it. So if we take Deirdre, she's a manager of a team supporting software products for her multinational company. Her company has just released a new version of the flagship software product, which is critical to the success of her business. As the product launched, she has a Customer Service Insights to closely monitor the number of cases and notices an increase with people asking for help installing. She'll dig down into those calls then and into those cases to realise that there's a problem with the installation notes. There's a missing part of those instructions. So from there, she can use the Customer Service Insights to add a topic to a virtual agent to prevent the calls coming to the customer service help desk. She can also publish an FAQ at that point. So again, driving and protecting her customer service team. So that's all well and good. But the next day, she's looking at the statistics, everything's going down. We're not seeing as many reported calls on that information, but only for one of the agents, there's still a problem. There's still high numbers on this particular topic. So by using the call insights and looking at the call log, she can realize that they're not using the right tools and publishing the right FAQs at that point, and therefore she can do some training. She can publish another email to remind people about where those FAQs are and that information. So you can see she's monitored the information that she's got available to her, analysed what the problem was and taken an action and reacted to that to make sure that she's always protecting her company, her customer service agents and her customers in the end, to make sure they're always going to get that satisfactory outcome. So let's just dig into customer services now. I'm just going to change the screen I'm sharing and move you over there. Screen, that one. So hopefully you can see my homepage now. Is that right, Trish? Give us a nod.
Yep, we're good to go.
So this is Customer Service Insights homepage. I've already set my data up. I've configured it, but and I'll go through later how we can do that. And what it's presenting to you first within this Customer Services Managers area are some topics to watch. So we've got an idea that these cases are emerging. They might be top on a few of these scores. So it's having a negative impact on your customer satisfaction score. It's getting a higher volume of traffic compared to last time, or there may be something else that's considered about that is essential. And these are just a quick snapshot of as a customer service manager, you might want to take into consideration. And then as we go down, we can see other configurations that are available to us. So we can see the topics, so groupings of cases that are impacting the resolution time. So this topic is really has got a long resolution time, and we should take a look at that as well. So another way that we can really address exceptions within our customer service account. And we're also prompted to, these are the topics that it thinks we should start thinking about automating. These are the topics that are have been quick to solve, and maybe only the resolution time is low, so therefore it's providing information maybe. And that if we can do that via a topic in a virtual agent or an FAQ, then we can reduce the number of calls that are actually generated. And next we're going down into by channel. So this is the channels, Twitter, email, Facebook, etc. that the call is coming in on. And again, we're looking at the CSAT score and how that is going over time. So over the last 30 days, the CSAT score, if it's coming via email, has dropped by 20%. So that's significant enough for a customer service manager to take a look at it. The final graph, unfortunately, doesn't work for me that well because of the data that I generated. I couldn't get the create date working properly. But that would show you over a typical day this month when your cases were created. So this ensures that you have planned out your times for your staff rota and making sure that you have enough people in and around your environment at that time to answer those calls. If we go down on this left-hand side now, the first one we come to is KPI Summary. So that's key performance indicators. On the top here, we've got time periods, etc. That it's very much like Power BI. We can change these things and it will impact the rest of them. We can go do that by product and channel, even the business unit if we had a breakdown of that. On the left now, we start seeing these topics realizing into the actual numbers that are behind them. So this users invest in damage. I used drug names to get my titles created, so that's why you'll see a lot of drug names throughout this application. If I can obviously take a breakdown of each, so I've selected that there, which has changed all the breakdowns in this slide, or if I wanted a full detail on it, I can open it into a new tab, and this will then load into a specific topic window for that topic, and we'll come back to that later. Across the top, we've got the total number of cases in this period, and obviously how that's changed from the last period. So we've got a 52% increase in cases. That's probably because I imported a load of data, to be honest. But as you can see, you're getting visualizations of each of these things, and it's not just a simple number, but you've got that broad understanding of that, how that's increasing or decreasing over time. Resolutions, again, how many cases were resolved in this period and how that's changed over time, how many cases were escalated and went to a different, escalated to an individual. But as you can see, we're pretty SLA compliant. We've not breached any of our first call or resolution SLAs. And that, again, over time, how we're doing. And obviously for a customer service manager, making sure that we're looking at these as we're going along is critical. Unfortunately for me, my average resolve time is quite high, significantly high. But that's obviously depending on the data that's there. But you can obviously see that you've got these key points in this environment that's allowing you to speculate and take, analyze and then react to those things. And finally, the CSAT score. So we're seeing that over the last month, our average CSAT has gone down by 8%. It's still good. It's still above 3, which is normally the threshold for good. But you need to make sure that you're keeping that as high as you can. The next section is a breakdown of those cases by new, as in created this month, and ones that were brought in this month, because I'm using that as a time period, the priority of the existing cases, and then the channels that are showing you here. So we've got a lot of resolved cases via the Twitter channel, which seems to be quite good. And obviously we can do the same as what I said. We can break that down. So all these graphs will then change. Oh, we haven't got any. Oh, that's because I hit resolved, isn't it? But just like Power BI, we can do that cross drilling. On the bottom is when they were created. So you can see that we had a peak of resolutions last week, probably because that's where I imported the data, and you can see that how is that impacted. But usually you would see that bubbling along, resolutions versus new cases, and if you start seeing peaks in that, you need to understand why at that point and understand the reasoning. Let me just clear the filters. On this left-hand side, you've got emerging topics, and these are the ones that have had a big increase in number since that last period. So we're seeing a 66% increase in the number of cases due to this faulty Actos late delivery, whatever that means. So this is the idea that as you see different topics coming in, you can react to like, oh, we're seeing a lot for that software product we've just launched, or the version 3 product with that hotfix is now causing us problems. What we're going to do about it and why. So driving down on that left-hand side still, we get to new cases, and again we're into a report that allows us to see for the new cases where they're coming from and what the conditions are being met, and particularly the CSAT score for each of the topics, as we can see here, resolution rate, how many of those have been closed already, and the resolution time. So and the changes in that. So all of these are the volumes that are currently sat with cases that are open in the site. So and each of the topics are grouping those cases together. And on this right hand side, you can see the case priority over time. We've managed to keep our high priority cases pretty low, apart from that peak. And the same with the normal cases. There was a peak a few days ago, so maybe that's worth looking into. And as that progresses over time, you want to make sure you're not getting higher priorities of particular cases on a day, because that could have an impact on your CSAT scores and all the rest of them. Case channel, again, over time, showing you where you're getting cases from, and that might mean that suddenly your phone system was broken, or you've not got your Twitter channel set up correctly. There might be a wrong redirect or something like that. So you need to monitor those over time to ensure that you're getting the right indications, and that's driving where your agents spend most of the time. Are they going to spend more time answering Facebook posts, or are they going to be on the phone? And you can obviously dictate which parts of your team will focus on which bits. And like I said, my timings is broken, but that again would show you how and when to establish your team and their priorities over a given day. And that's obviously for this month. So the important one for most success managers, service managers, is this customer satisfaction score. This is down from last month, and you might need to worry about that. We've got the band that was the average that people look to. Anything above 3 is good, and this usually takes form of a 5-star rating on a form, or a forms customer voice form now, or something similar that you've asked for. Once you resolve a case, you send out a survey, and one of the key questions on that will be that CSAT score. That survey is resolved, it's sent back and updates the case with the CSAT reference, and that's basically saying that we have had a positive response, and then we can use that to that score and bring it together into a score for the overall for the topic. Just to go down there, you can actually see the breakdown of whether your Twitter responses are going to receive a better score than your Facebook responses. So is there something that in the language that people are using on those mediums that may be affected, and therefore you can drive changes in your way of working to allow that. On the main grid here is basically having an understanding about the impact of individual CSAT scores on the overall score, you can see that this top line here, there was only 2 resolutions. We did get 2 surveys completed, but the average CSAT score was 1.5, which is effectively a 2 and a 1. So whoever raised those cases wasn't very happy with us. But more importantly, it's 0.2%. It's having a detrimental effect of 0.2% on that overall score. Here, with 8 cases in tow, the average score is slightly higher, but because of the number of cases, that's dragging down the impact by nearly 1%. So that's something that really we would need to look at. If we can try and fix those problems, then we're going to see a positive impact on our CSAT score. So moving down to resolutions, and this is how we're going to, once we resolve the case, how long it's taken, the new cases versus resolve times, and then how we can look at those at the individual. And again, we're looking at the impact of that topic on the overall resolution time. You can see here that we had a lot of cases on this topic, and because the resolution time was so high, it's actually having a 1.4% impact on our resolution time. If we can try and look at what happened there and look at the individual cases, we can obviously look at reducing that quite considerably, and that would have a big impact on our resolution times. And that's one of the other metrics that people use to make sure that we understand how good our service desk is. Now, we've talked a lot about topics and how they're grouping things together, but on this left-hand side is the final tab, and we've seen it already really. It's a listing of all the topics that are available. If I go back into the tab that we had earlier, this is the topic tab, so you can see that it for that individual topic, for the period that it has, all these key metrics for that topic. We're seeing the total cases, resolutions, escalations, the compliant SLAs, the resolution times, and the CSAT score. So it's slightly below this one. But because of the number of volumes, it's going to be reducing, has a negative impact on our CSAT score. And you can, this is also then starting to break down for the channels. And we can also see that we've got the resolutions by agent. So this is my system admin effectively. So he's got all of the unresolved cases. He's also got the longest resolve time and the lowest CSAT rating. But if that was multiple users, you would see bars there with people that were ensuring that you're using the peaks and the troughs in those people's times to understand what went wrong or didn't go or went well, to allow you to train the other members of your team. And down at the bottom, we get an interesting graph about how things flowed for your organization. We can see that the web channel, half and half went from an escalated to a non-escalated, and the majority of escalated cases went to resolved. So you can see that these passed, and these are the things that you might want to look at. We've got a high, we want things mostly go to non-escalated. So when there's lots of people, things not going to escalate, this is another indicator of something we need to look at. The other tab up here is the actual listing of all the cases that are associated, again, in that period, against that topic. So these are all the cases, and these are all linked to Dynamics. I can open these into our Dynamics environment and see the detail of the case once it loads. But anyway, the reason for this, to show you this is where we can establish whether the topic is correct. So this topic has got a lot to do with this simvastatin drug, and most of them are to do with this drug. So it's basically done a AI natural language to make sure that we understand that this drug is the keyword here. As we go down, there's going to be a couple that are nothing to do with it. Oh, here we go, lovastatin, and it would be up to me to understand whether this topic is appropriate. And what I can do is I can give it a thumbs up or thumbs down. So if I give it a thumbs down, the next time the customer service insight runs and gets data, it will think about what topic it's in and move it to a different topic. So then you can start teaching the AI what topics are right and what are not. The other thing we can do here, we can give it a rename, so we can change this to whatever we want, and this is depending on what your either your products or your information that available to you, what you want to decide are your topic titles. You can change that, and that will then be kept for you long term. And this is only just taking the latest one off that list, but we can change it to whatever we like. And the other thing that we can do is start thinking about automating this. If we've got a virtual agent set up already, we can add a topic to the virtual agent. And once this loads, it's dragged through a couple of key phrases from that topic list. And we add to that to create a topic within the virtual agent that's already established. Bear in mind that these are probably not the way that someone talking on a bot maybe possibly want to get in contact with you. So it's up to you to start changing those trigger phrases and building that out. So we've talked an awful lot about the data, which is all coming from Dynamics 365. Let's see how we can configure that and change some of that. So in this, we can change the entity that it's going to get the data from. So it's typically the case entity, the incident entity under the hood from Dynamics 365. But if you are using a brand new entity, you can add that, you can change that here, and step through changing which entity you want to make available, and that depending on your configuration in your environment. Once you've done that, you get presented a load of fields that you need to map. So on this left-hand side is the fields that it's going to be using to start doing the mapping and the matching, as well as being able to drive resolution dates, priorities, there's the channel, etc. And these are all mapped for you if you start with the out-of-the-box customer service experience, but it might be something that you've tweaked in your environment to not rely on one of these out-of-the-box fields. Let me just close that. The other thing that a lot of people do within customer service is that title may have keywords in it to describe the case. So you might have the SWOT reference number, you might have a priority, and you might separate them by pipes or colons or some other way of working out that this case title is more than just a few words entered by the user. There might be some pre-populated fields for you. Normally ones, you get escalated in there and that sort of thing. So it's an indicator to the user that quite quickly that things have happened. And this is a way of getting customer service insights to ignore any of that. So you would select whether you want before or after that pipe or and other things in there so that you can understand which bit is critical to build up those topic descriptions by grouping cases together. Topic granularity, excuse me, is effectively where each title could be unique. And if we make that the granularity very high, all the way up to very high, it would effectively mean that each case would become its own topic if there's a slight variation in that case title. Now, again, it's up to you to make a decision about your data and how specific you want to be in those topics. But the more, we always sort of start with the middle, and depending on how many topics you're getting and the variation between each of those topics and working it through, you can start to understand what's best for your environment. And again, it's depending on your data. The final thing on the settings file is the web API endpoint. So Microsoft allows you to expose the customer service insight data to other environments and API. So you could build your own Power BI reports based around this endpoint. That is the grouping of the topics, the average scores, etc. All those data points that we've now created are available to you, so that you can then start doing your own analysis and your own digging into that data. So we talked about data a lot, but there's also the calls. So up here you've got this call insights, and if we go into the tab that I've already got set up, these are calls that I've uploaded thanks to Trish, that are demonstrations of a call interaction with a customer. So you would typically add calls from your current customer service call logging software, and it would then upload the MP3 of the call. It would also tag it with some a JSON file that would have some key bits of information it needed, like when the call was taken, and the keyword names and a few other bits. The agent, the agent that took the call, and from that, Microsoft would analyze that call. It would create a translation of that call, and then derive the sentiment as well as keywords and etc. from it, to make sure that you can then go back and look at this overview of your team doing these things, but also look at the highlights and the lowlights of your team's interaction with customers. So here we're basically saying that the overall sentiment for the calls that I've had across all time this month or whatever, again, we've got some the ability to reduce the timeline here. We're seeing that mostly it's neither here nor there, but we have got some 27% of our time are positive, and we can see that broken down by the agents within my team, and then over time. So you'd want to make sure that positive is going up, the negative is going down, and the bit in the middle is hopefully neither here nor there, but you're not making sure that you're having less negative experiences, because that would have an impact on the resolution time and the CSAT score. Also, conversational style, we talk about a lot about listening rather than telling, and making sure that you're clear, because you don't want to repeat yourself. So training that out and having the tools to monitor that is essential for a customer services manager. So we've got ratios of who was talking, talk to listen ratios, words per minute that people were talking. Switches per hour is how many times the conversation switched between the customer and the agent per hour effectively, because you don't want that quick interaction. You want to make sure that you have time to speak. And also things like how long is it between a customer asking something and the agent responding. So this is the peak of the team average for that. And then we've got the longest customer monologue, which I think is a great title, but the idea of how long the customer has ranted at you or had a discussion and the agent has just sat back and listened. So we can also go down to agent details, and if I go and drill down into Megan B, we can see that it's effectively for her over this time period. She's had 10 calls. Each of the calls is listed here with the positive and negative sentiment for each, and that changed over time. So she had a bit of a blip on her negative that over here. So what was the reason? Was there any reason, or was it just a one-off? And it's also given us key insights here that she's we're getting higher than average negative customer sentiment in her calls. So that's something that is basically making the manager aware there might be something that we need to train Megan on. And this is all the calls that were logged for her. These are all the call lengths and the time that each of them was taken. So this is basically allowing an individual manager to drill down into this call data and to listen to an individual call. So I've taken this call, it's basically transcribed it. We've got a whole transcription of the call here. It's given us some action items. So where it's a decision that's been made or an instruction, etc., And if I click on one of these, you can see the part of the call that it thinks that was where it was. We've got keywords, and you can append to this list of keywords your own keywords that are product related, etc. People's names that it thinks were said during these things. And as you look at this call, you can see that. And we can also see times. And finally, any time where any sort of prices were mentioned. So if I play this for you now, hopefully you can hear this.
Oh, we're not hearing anything. I'm not sure if you're.
Okay. Just see if I can change that. You should be able to hear it.
No, not hearing.
What I wanted to do.
Oh, I can hear it now.
Didn't want to be, you know, what is it, $83 a month. Yeah.
So the point there really is that we want to make sure that we can interact with that call. We can go to parts of that call and look at the translation, the transcription, but also listen to that and make sure that the AI has got it right. So that's really all we're looking at is monitor analysis, and then the interact at that point is to make sure that Megan B is doing the right thing and she said the right things, and we train her up at that point to be a more effective communicator and highlight to her where things have gone wrong and use that as a training method. Finally, I just wanted to show you within our dynamic solution, this was the case that we had earlier. We've got analytics and insights that you can configure here. And this is just bringing that insights dashboard into Dynamics so that a customer service agent can do it in one step. And we've also got reports here, which allow you to share these reports with colleagues or agents as well, once it loads. So that's the same information that we've already seen, done via cases, or we can do it via an agent. So we can establish that the customer agents and understand that information and see it in a conventional place rather than going to that separate website that we saw earlier. And that is me done. Is there any questions? I'm going to stop sharing that.
There was a question from Jessica about the KPI dashboards, if that was something that was configurable, but she mentioned that you were answering her question. Jessica, did that answer your question?
Yeah, that did. Thank you. Yeah, anything like that, whenever I see dashboards of things, I always have to think, oh, but we've got so much custom data.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
double check and change it.
I think that, yeah, you would. The insights are great, but there are limitations, like we've seen. It's very much fixed to the out-of-the-box entities and that sort of thing. So I'm hoping that Microsoft are going to give us a bit more leeway on that and allowing us to do a bit more, because yes, you can get the data out now and we can use it within our own to get that data and combine data sets, but it would be good to allow us to have more control over the display and highlight certain other things in there. But then, you start looking at customer insights rather than service insights. Do that sort of thing maybe. But again, the key here is that topic, the AI natural language, that's bringing these things and grouping them together naturally for you without any much effort.
Yeah, it means it's low touch for you, doesn't it? It's kind of plug and play, put it in, see what happens, and then tinker with it.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions?
No, that's fine. It's all good.
Cool.
Good. Thank you very much for your time, everybody. Appreciate coming along. And I'll see you soon.